This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my guy Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Never a dull moment in Detroit sports. My goodness, it's rivalry week. We're going to talk about in just a few moments. We're going to talk about Michigan State. The Pistons have started their season. We got to spend a few minutes talking about what we think is going to happen with the Pistons. And we'll start that segment with a funny anecdote because it kind of indicates where the Pistons are at in the world of Detroit sports. And then we're going to finish with all the craziness that surrounds the Detroit Lions. Do they have an MVP caliber quarterback? The impact of a great win, a suspension that came down late on Monday that kind of derailed everything, kind of put a wrench in everything going on with the Detroit Lions, a wrench in the positivity train that definitely emerged after defeating the Minnesota Vikings. So a good podcast this week. I can't wait to break down everything going on with my guy Adam, because it was funny. On Tuesday morning, typically listen to the radio, typically get the day started, take the kids to school, and they have a contest called the 2 Grand Slam on the Pistons flagship station. And the first question, I think obviously related to the NBA season kicking off, was, who's the coach of the Detroit Pistons? And the guy's like, pass. And he didn't even know. He came back to it. Luckily, he earned his $25. You get $25 for every question you get right. Luckily, he came back to it, and he recognized that, yes, J.B. Bickerstaff is the coach of the Pistons. Look, the Pistons are so far down the relevancy scale, it's crazy. You and I are going to pay attention to it because we're sports addicts and things like that, but they're so far gone from what's going on now, especially with the Tigers. They pushed the Pistons all the way to the back of the of the attention span, back of the line, and you recognize, man, the Pistons got a long climb, but it's the start of a rebuild. I'm curious, what's your expectations for this team this year? They're starting off. It's fair to be positive, but it's like one of those things where it's a similar assessment to what we said about the Tigers. Just develop, get to 30 wins, look like you know how to guard, look like you know how to rotate, look like you know how to communicate at a proficient level, and that's about it. But you know, at least the one thing that we can say is they got a couple guys that can shoot the three in the NBA when it's important to shoot the three. Tobias Harris is going to carry the team. And let's see what happens. I think 31, 32 wins. They're going to develop, and hopefully Cade can kind of stay healthy and take another step in his development. But for me, it's just look like a proficient team, get to 30 wins, and try to make it interesting for at least a couple months.
I just don't want them to be embarrassing. I mean, it is ground floor when it comes to expectations for the Pistons. You talk about what the Tigers have done to the Pistons. The Pistons, you look at the Big Four. Pistons are 4, and honestly, you could probably make the argument that they might be 5 if you want to include DCFC. You could find other sports to keep you a little bit more interested. If you want to work in college football, obviously Michigan State, I think, take a precedence over the Detroit Pistons. Pistons are way back of the line, I think, for a lot of people's consciousness, and I think just kind of where we have them in like the totem pole of Detroit sports. Like, we're going to pay attention because we do this show and because we're gluttons for punishment pretty much. But I just want them to look like a competent, real team. I don't want to see any infighting. I want to see this team develop. I want to see some growth. Really and truly, the one thing that I want to see, the one thing I want to take away from this season is I just want to see them be able to play defense. You look at the Pistons teams of the past, right? When they were winning championships and they were being competitive in the Eastern Conference and they were going to conference championships and they were making noise in the playoffs, it's because of their defense. Their defense was the key. This is a team and this is a city that has trouble getting free agents to come here. You generally have to overpay. And the one thing that is easy, the one thing that is just effort, it's defense. Go out there, play hard defense, box guys out, get rebounds, force turnovers, get in a passing lane, get a hand or a foot up. Just try to be a distraction when a guy is shooting. That's it. Don't give up. Don't quit. This is going to be a tough season. This is going to be a rough season. You're thinking 30 wins. I'm thinking maybe a little bit less, maybe 27. That's kind of the expectation. Again, it's going to be bottom barrel for this team. But I need to see Cade develop. I need to see Cade take that next step. I need to see these guys get out there on the floor, line up with guys, and if they get punched in the face, I want to see them punch back. And I think you need to go there. We are ground floor with this brand new rebuild. It's another one. We just started a rebuild, and you just brought in a coach and paid him a fortune, and then you sent him on his way out. And now we're back here again. So this is what I think like the third rebuild in like 5 years or something like that, or 6 years. We're starting all over again. We're starting from scratch. So just play tough basketball is what I want to see. It is, again, expectations incredibly low for this team. There's little juice here, little excitement. There's not a whole lot there. Just play competent basketball and be a tough out for guys, and we'll kind of go from there. Speaking of lack of excitement, Michigan State, rivalry week. I've been incredibly tuned out on this Michigan team. This Michigan team is not really held my interest. Michigan State's looking decent, looking very good. What's your excitement level for this game? I'm assuming you are going to be pumped up because this looks like a very gettable Michigan team. Like I said, Michigan State has, in a very short time, a couple of weeks, has come a long way, I think. And I think Michigan State's going to be a very tough out for a lot of teams, while Michigan's going to be basically a turnstile at the mall. So I have zero excitement for this game, but I know you are going to be pumped up for it. Where are you at?
Yeah, heck yeah. There's a chance. There's a chance Michigan State could go in there at the big house and handle business. And look, to me, it's probably going to be a race to 17. It's going to be a shitty game. I think the whole world thinks like, man, this is going to be one of those games that could be just which team runs. Typically, it's going to be which team runs the ball the best, but the quarterback play could be real sloppy. I mean, it could be, we could have the joke. And actually,
who's the quarterback for Michigan? Michigan's got 3 quarterbacks right now, and they're all trash. My bowling ball bag can throw a football further than these Michigan quarterbacks. Come on. Horrible.
Entering the game, just thinking there could be more interceptions thrown than touchdown passes. That's the sick part. Between Aiden Childs and Orji and Tuttle, it just is going to be just hand the ball out. Look, for Michigan State, it's exciting because clearly they rebounded well after the bye and got the W, so that was good. They really took it to Iowa and were able to clamp down defensively. You saw growth. You've seen Aiden Childs connect with Marsh. That's always a good thing. On the other side, Michigan just looked like a dumpster fire, and when you don't have a quarterback, it's always the age-old adage, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. And I just think people are noticing, man, Sherrone Moore did a horrible job at the bye week. The team looked really out of sorts, a lot of turnovers. It did not look like a solid performance. And credit again to credit to Illinois for handling business and doing what they had to do. But it's just a game that you look at it from the Michigan side. It's a real chance that Michigan State can win this game. So it's disappointing. And let's start with there because you see now Sherrone Moore blocking radio hosts and not naming quarterbacks and just kind of you look at it from the perspective of
real quick. What was like? Because I missed it. I don't get a chance to listen to as much morning sports talk as you do. What happened there? Because normally Sherrone Moore goes on Jansen and Costa's morning show and does a bit with them. And normally with Jansen being there and working for the radio station, it's usually some softball type of stuff.
Yeah,
Costa does a great job. I've messaged Costa numerous times saying, hey, keep up the good work. Keep asking those tough questions. A lot of times radio guys don't want to ask those tough questions. They'd much rather be buddy-buddy. He does a really good job of towing that line, asking the difficult questions, and really kind of provoking some thought. What happened here that led to this? Because I missed it.
Yeah, that he just said. He just opened the segment with like, a coach blocked me, and he kept it in jest. Like maybe it could have been accidental. It could have been something that maybe Jim said. So by the time this airs, they would have already talked on Wednesday, so I'm sure it'll be addressed. I don't think it's going to be malicious. I just might even think Sherrone said, look, man, you're a high volume tweeter, and some of the comments that you say are going to spark, I just can't have that on my timeline. I think it's going to be something like that. Nothing malicious, I don't think, but it's just funny because it's fodder for guys like me to say, well, it looked like that Sherrone Moore blocked more people than his team did last week against Illinois in a two touchdown loss to Illinois. So to me, it's funny. It's silly. It could be accidental, but so far at the time we're talking, we don't know what's going on. And Jim's great. He always keeps things in jest, and I agree with you 100%. The way he interviews people, direct and honest, and that's the best way. And I have as well messaged him and said, hey, I enjoy your segments and all that kind of stuff, because, when you have somebody with talent like that who put in the work, who got a raw deal at his previous situation, finally graduates to the big time, it's cool to see. And he's a regular dude, and he's very, very cool. So Sherrone Moore is funny in regards to that aspect of it, blocking someone that you do an interview with. So you kind of like you don't think the guy that you're going to do an interview with weekly is going to notice that you blocked him on Twitter and posted. It just brings weird negative attention to the team. But I'll say this, when you just look at it from the, outside of Michigan State, why didn't the team go to Mullings a lot more? It just felt like you have this asset. I looked at that game. I was watching it from the restaurant. I was just thinking, well, your best player is Mullings, and there's times where you could put him in the game a little bit more. I was like, man, throwing the ball with these quarterbacks is a risky proposition. I just thought the coaching, I think, Wink Martindale stealing from Michigan, that doesn't look like no NFL defense. That doesn't look like anything different than, some of the bad defensive coordinators had. I think with Michigan, some of the concerns are a little bit more than the talent. I just thought that against Illinois, it kind of revealed itself that the Michigan coaching staff could do a lot better job. They didn't have their best week for sure last week.
Yeah, and look, why they don't go to Mullings more, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure if Sherrone Moore is this offensive guru that we all thought he was. Being in that Penn State game where he decided to just run the ball because the pass wasn't there, I don't know if he's this genius. I don't know if it's just the roster of guys he has around him, right? You knew this season was going to be tough. You knew this season was going to be a bit of a setback because you lost so much talent. You have a brand new head coach. I don't think he did a great job recruiting, and you can kind of look at the quarterback room as evidence of that. I think there's been a lot of stuff that has swirled around this program leading from the time that Jim Harbaugh was suspended middle of the season all the way up until when Sherrone Moore finally signed his contract. That's not a great atmosphere to come into, and that's not a great atmosphere to try to get kids there so you can coach them up. And I believe it's got to be really hard to coach them up when you've got all this extra noise going on around you. But all of that is just excuses. And I'm not here to give this guy a free pass because his in-game coaching has been horrible. His play construct has been horrible. The play calling in the games have been horrible. The fact that your quarterback room looks like three pylons dressed in maize and blue is horrible. You've got wide receivers quitting on the field. Your best asset is a running back who was once a linebacker. You need to feed this guy at least 40 times a game. Just give him the ball, let him do things. Your offensive line has gotten better as the season has gone on, but still, that was a bit of a struggle. And at times, that doesn't look very good. And your quarterbacks don't make that look very good. You have a quarterback in Alex Orji who can't throw the ball. I don't think he can diagnose defenses. He's a guy who gets the ball and he wants to run with it. Okay, fine. Then you've got Jack Tuttle, who might be the best of both Davis Warren and Alex Orji, and that's not raising a very high bar. Because Davis Warren, as much as he can throw the ball, the guy is turnover prone, and he looks like he's shell-shocked, and he can't make decisions either. So you have issues, and you won't win in college football if you don't have a quarterback. Michigan doesn't have a quarterback. Michigan doesn't have good offensive plays. It's not working. Or you don't have the guys who can run the offensive plays. It's a bad mix. This is a season where if you could wave the white flag and you could check out and you could hit the restart button, you would do it. Michigan football is hard to watch. I think Michigan State crushes Michigan. I think Michigan State walks into the big house and embarrasses Michigan. I can see Michigan State winning this game. And look, I know Aiden Childs has been turnover prone, and I know that he is a bit of a work in progress. I get it. But I can see this being a 24-7, a 24-10 type of game. And if you are Michigan, you are the defending national champion. This is one of your bigger rivals. They come into your house and they beat you by that much. That's embarrassing. And I think you could see all three quarterbacks play because you don't know what you have. Because Sherrone Moore's done a really bad job of working these quarterbacks in and developing anybody or developing anything. If I was the play caller for Michigan, because I think that defense is okay. We talked a lot about what Wink Martindale's defense was going to look like and how it was going to cost this team, right? You can't blitz as much as he blitzes. You can't run the schemes that he wants to run. It just doesn't work. It didn't really work in the NFL when he was on his way out the door. It worked for a time period, especially when you had those really good Ravens defenses. It was great. But the last couple of years, the NFL has caught up, and now college football, you don't have the same caliber of players that you have at the NFL level. So it's a bad mix, man. It's a really bad mix on the defensive and offensive side. If I was Michigan, though, I would try to run a little bit more zone coverage on defense, and I would hand the ball off a bunch to Cleo Mullins and just let him run all day long. He's your best weapon on offense. And just hope for a couple of turnovers and try to keep the game close. And you've got a decent kicker, maybe get it in range for your kicker so you can kick a winning field goal. But I think Michigan State rolls in this game. Michigan State's going to crush Michigan, right? That's how you see this playing out?
I'm hoping. I think it's going to be close. No, I don't think it's going to be crushed. I think that Michigan State will probably, do something Michigan State style where they'll get up to a 13-point lead. And then the fourth quarter, Mullins will have a 65-yard run when the Spartans have been containing him all day long, and then the flags will start rolling, and then Michigan State will have a chance for an interception, and they'll drop it, and then Aiden Childs will run for 70 yards and then fumble the football. Something crazy will happen, and that's how it always kind of goes. But I do think, in the end, basically the key to this game is Childs has to be responsible with that football, and he's got to find his targets and be able to kind of run the offense, stay within the realm of the game plan. And his legs are, you look at the potential to get 4 wins so far has been rewarding. It's nice, but it's good to see at least Jonathan Smith representing a culture and representing, okay, pound the football, explosive plays, have an opportunity to move things forward in terms of explosiveness. And then on the other side of the coin, you look at it on the defensive side, they're aggressive and they can do some things, but they're depleted. They're hurt all over the place. And I think talent for talent, I do think Michigan's a little bit better. When you look at Loveland, you look at the defensive lineman that's pretty good. You look at Loveland, that's always been a challenge. So to me, it's kind of it's an even proposition, and it's going to be one of those games to be entertaining to watch in regards to two teams that are similar. It may not be the best quality. It's not going to be Georgia, Alabama. You know what I mean? In any stretch of the imagination, but for where they're at, what's the impact cause if Michigan State wins? Like, does this start? Because, we've done this before with Jim Harbaugh. You ranted and raved. I've ranted and raved. And everybody has said, 4 years ago, Jim's never going to win nothing and things like that. Well, you never know what desperation spawns. Mr. Jim Harbaugh decided that, we might have to go above and beyond the realm of sportsmanship here to try and win. And they did some things. Which I kind of have the feeling that Sherrone Moore could be that coach that could win 8 games, but I just kind of feel like every couple of years he's going to sprinkle in a 4 or 5 loss season. When you make a critical mistake and not get a quarterback, I mean, I think that's the easiest thing that any coach can assess is like, whoa, I don't got a quarterback. And you went with Tuttle, and he's turnover prone. Davis Warren wasn't effective, and Orgy is not a quarterback. So, and cuz I have to say this, clearly I'm curious your sense of where Sherrone Moore is at. Are you excited in any capacity that Dave Portnoy is going to give his Barstool money to Michigan? I mean, I would love that if the people that with big dollars and mortgage companies would continue to drop $3 million a year on a quarterback. I want $10 million and get a quarterback, wide receiver, linebacker, and start sprinkling some of that some big time mortgage money. I don't know if he's allowed to. I don't know all those darn money rules, but money's coming into the program on a public level. at Michigan. You excited for that? And do you think that Sherrone Moore will be around to spend it?
Well, is Dave going to be able to go out there and recruit the talent and pick the quarterback? Because if so, I would trust that. Because right now, I do not trust Sherrone Moore. If you're telling me that the guys that you have in that quarterback room, those were your options, those were your picks, those are your guys you were going to roll out with, I think we have a problem. So look, my confidence, and look, I was a guy who was beating the drum for Sherrone Moore when they're like, all right, well, Jim's going to leave, obviously. So Sherrone's going to take this over. I was like, okay, this could work. This could be good. And right now, I don't know. He looks befuddled. He looks bewildered, and he looks confused. I appreciate what Dave wants to do, how he wants to invest some money and spend his NIL and get a high-priced quarterback here. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. Let's go. But all that being said, is Sherrone Moore doing the recruiting here? Is Sherrone Moore the guy who – do we have faith in Sherrone Moore at this point? Because what I've seen, the product that I've seen, leaves me really scratching my head. I don't know what we're doing. I think on defense, you've got guys who are incredibly talented. On offense, you've got an okay offensive line. You've got an offensive line that you should be able to build around, and you have a running back. You should be able to come up with some plays to help generate some wins, or at least be competitive in a game. When you go to Illinois and you lose 21-7, you weren't even competitive in that game. And now you're going to come home and look, you're going to lose to Michigan State. You're not beating Oregon. Depending on what's going on with Indiana, I know their quarterback just had surgery. Indiana could be a tough out. And then, cool, you'll get a win against Northwestern, but you're not beating Ohio State. I mean, at this moment in time, they're 4-3. So Michigan State's a loss. Now it's 4-4. Oregon's lost. That's 4-5. I think Indiana, again, depending on what happens, that could be 4-6. So then you go play Northwestern. Now you're at 5-6. So you're going to be a 7-loss team. You're not beating Ohio State, dude. This looks like the COVID year. You know what I'm saying? This looks like Brady Hoke trying to figure things out. This looks like Rich Rod having the rug pulled out from underneath him. It's bad. Like it is bad at Michigan. When I say that you want to wave the white flag and you want to roll up the season, you don't want to play the back end of the schedule. You don't. Like, it's honestly, at this moment in time, I think if you're Sherrone Moore, you need to pull your offensive staff into a closed-door meeting, and you need to say, look, what are our options here? Who is the guy who gives us the best chance to win going forward? Who's the guy who, not so much this year. This year is kind of a wash. We've already lost this year. It's done. Who is the guy that we can put in and we can see some development and we can build and we can see what we can do? Is it a 27-year-old Jack Tuttle? Does he have any more years left? If so, maybe you put him in. Is it Davis Warren? Can you teach him how to be a quarterback to where he can process and not throw the ball to the wrong jersey? Is it going to be Alex Orji? Can you teach him how to throw? You need to have that decision, and you need to play that guy, because I see one win going forward, and that's Northwestern. And the fact that Northwestern, as smart as they are and as good as they are at everything academically, it's amazing they can put their helmets on the correct way and put their cleats on the right feet. So it's one of those types of things, man. That's where the season is at for Michigan right now. You know, that big win against USC, we are far from that. We are ways away. And as you can see, USC looks like a bit of a fraud as well. So it's tough sledding going forward, man. It's going to be really, really rough. It's going to be really, really tough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. So you think about it. We've thought about it now for a few moments. We gave it a segment. It's going to be wild. It's going to be tough to digest. It might end up being a 4-hour game. You look at it from the perspective of two teams that really do desperately need this win. I think in the end, Michigan State takes it, but it's going to be close. I think they're going to have to hold on. Michigan has a lot of talent. If you control Mullings and you stop the run, you make Michigan one-dimensional, look, I just don't want to see highlights of Mullings running all over the place. If you can just do that, I'll be satisfied. If it's a tough loss, it's Michigan State year one. They got a long way to go. Michigan technically is ahead, but they're not playing that great. I think it'll derail Michigan's season. So we'll see how this contest plays out. In the end, I think it's Michigan State 23 and Michigan 20. and it's going to be a grinded out kind of game. We'll see who wins the rushing battle and who makes the plays and who avoids the key turnovers. So it'll be interesting to see who wins and what score.
The only way Michigan wins is if Khalil Mullins has a Kenneth Walker type day where he's running for 5 touchdowns, 200 yards. That is the only way Michigan wins this game. I think Michigan State wins this game, and I think it's embarrassing. It's not even close. I think Michigan State ends up winning 24-10, like I said earlier, and I don't think it's close. Maybe what did I say, 27-10. It's just they're going to win by at least 2 scores, at least 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I like that. You put a smile on my face. What did not put a smile on my face? It's crazy because, and I think you've got a glimpse now of how crazy working in the NFL is. It's just 24 hours. I was enthralled in a Netflix show. I tried to get the wife to watch it with me, but I started at 9:40. It's called Sweet Bobby, and it's this crazy story of this lady that got catfished. She got catfished for a decade. I mean, seriously, catfished by her own family member, where this person elaborately created like 50 profiles, was having all these conversations, made her believe that she was in love with this guy. She finally finds this guy and is like, hey, we've been talking for so long. Where? And he's like, I don't know you. And his wife is like, huh? What's this strange lady doing at our house? It's crazy. It's a crazy story. So I'm like ending it, and I'm just like, how the hell does somebody not see somebody for 8-9 years in this world, and be allowed to be catfish? I think it's so crazy to see and to believe. So I'm sitting there digesting it, going, is this real? Did this really happen? This lady's crazy for allowing this all to went down, and to think about the person that did all this. It was crazy. So then I'm just about to go to sleep, and the wife's like, did you see the news? I'm like, what news? And then I'm like, you never want to see 15 texts and your DMs blow up. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? And it's like Jameson suspended. So I was like 20 minutes late to see the news. And I'm like, it's one of those things where luckily the site's done well and everything's fine, so you could take your sweet ass time. But I had no capacity to put words together, and I was just taking forever. Luckily got it out there, but Jameson Williams, finds out, it's reported late at night on a Monday that he's suspended. He texts a reply to his reporter that he's close with that has done a feature on him. He's like, I got to take it on the chin. Performance enhancing substance violation. It's a 2-game suspension. It's crazy because my first thought is not to. It's like, okay, if you're going to accept the suspension, I don't care what you took. You didn't know what you were ingesting in your body to the degree in which you need it to be to avoid getting suspended. Not that many players get suspended for this. So, players have said, they give you the list, they update the list. There's stuff everywhere that tells you what you can and cannot take, and you got to be super in tune with that to not have that happen. So at the time we're talking, we don't know what it was. We don't know if we're talking on a Tuesday. We don't know exactly when the suspension is going to come down. What we know at the time we're talking, Jameson Williams is facing a 2-game suspension, likely going to miss the Titans and Green Bay game. It's his second suspension in 2 years, and he's accepted it. He said he's going to take it on the chin. He can't wait to get back with the fellas. It's a mistake. It's not one of the most serious ones because there are PED suspensions that could be longer, of 4 or 6 games. It's a PES suspension. It seems like the most minor one. It's 2 games. But with the offense rolling, I just think that my number one response, and I posted on Twitter at Detroit Podcast, is be a pro. Like, this is not professional behavior. This is not behavior of a professional NFL athlete playing for a team that's going to win a Super Bowl. Like, can't happen anymore. Probably the final straw to me in terms of this is the last thing that can be of a self-inflicted wound. You're 23. It's time to step up and be accountable. This franchise is making you accountable by giving you the football, putting you in key situations to help this football team win. The least you could do is to understand fully the NFL rule system and understand that, hey, I cannot take this thing or that thing. I don't care if it's a cold, allergy, Adderall. I do not care what it is. I don't know at the time I'm talking what it is. I do not care.
That's what I think it is.
Yeah, I don't care what it is.
I think it's Adderall. I don't know. We don't know, but that's what I think it is.
We don't know. Whatever it is, you cannot take that substance and pass a test. And to miss 2 games is egregious. It's unfortunate, and it's just not great to be able to. It's not great to be able to talk about that subject at this point in time.
Look, it is just incredibly frustrating. This guy has all of the potential in the world, and to be honest with you, he hasn't done anything. This is year 3 of his career, and he's contributed little to nothing. He has some highlight moments that are great, but you've done absolutely nothing. You yourself have won nothing. And to continuously make mistakes, put your career in jeopardy, put yourself in jeopardy, put your team in jeopardy, to me, it's unexcusable. This guy has to grow up and grow up fast. And I feel like you could just go and take snippets of what we said a couple of months ago when he was suspended again and just put them right here, because it's the same shit. You're talking about the same stuff. You're talking about a young man who is acting like a child. You are a grown-ass man playing in a grown-ass man's league. You have a duty and you have a due diligence to take care of your body, to take care of all the things that are proper to the game, and to make sure you are doing what is right to put yourself and put your team in the best spot possible. You are coming off of arguably the biggest win of the season, and now you're going to overshadow it by being a boner and getting popped for a PES suspension? Like, come on, man. What are you doing? Honestly, I think this right here, as talented as he is and as good of a player as he is, I think this right here is kind of that nail in the coffin where this team and this franchise will let this contract run out, but I don't see them bringing him back because he is too much of a liability at this point. He, at any given time, can be suspended. This isn't the first time he's getting suspended. This isn't the first time he's put himself in a stupid spot. If we go through the list of dumb Jameson Williams things that he's done, this obviously at the top, right there next to the gambling, right there being on the corner of Finkel and Meyer and handing out $100 bills at a Coney Island, putting him in weird spots late at night in some of Detroit's not so nice neighborhoods. Like these are just things that you just don't do. Just be an adult. Just be smart. Like understand what you have in front of you and take advantage of it. Instead, I just kind of feel like he blows it all. He just this to me, this is what's most frustrating. As you can tell, I'm pretty worked up right here. This is what's most frustrating is the guy is as fast as Tyreek Hill, right? And the guy has the ability to change a game like Tyreek Hill, but he does these mental midget things. He does all of the dumb Antonio Brown shit that Antonio Brown did at the back end of his career. And the thing is, some of Antonio Brown's stuff you could kind of excuse. Some of Tyreek Hill's stuff you could kind of excuse. Do you know why? Because they went out and they won football games and they performed and they were that guy. Jameson Williams' career hasn't been long enough, and he doesn't have enough on tape and on film to be that guy. He hasn't won enough games for his teams. You look at this past week. This past week, he had 1 catch for -4 yards. I'm sorry, bro. You're not that guy. You know? It's too much dumb stuff. The talent is there for sure. It is the shit between the ears that pisses me off the most because he is a mental midget and he fumbles the freaking rock in his personal life. It's just more dumb shit, and I'm tired of it.
Okay, so I got to ask you because as we were talking, and I love your passion, so naturally I'm never going to shy away from just tweeting dumb shit that people are like, what the fuck are you tweeting? And, and it would take more, but, we're talking just value here. If you're the Raiders and
yes.
you look at...
Yes. I've already thought about it. I thought about it last night. I'll give you a first this year. I'll give you a second next year, and I'll give you Jameson Williams. Go.
Oh wow.
Go. Give me Max Crosby.
Straight up.
Give me Max. I'll trade him to fucking Cleveland. Give me Myles Garrett.
Straight up.
Let's go.
Jameson Williams for Max Crosby. Would you do that? Just straight up. Player for player.
All day. Let's go.
You're taking away a big chunk of your offense that's explosive. I don't
care.
Okay, straight,
don't
right?
care.
It's a fair question too, right? People are like, "Oh,
Yeah.
because of their loyalty," and I think which is good. This is actually, to me, you guys know, I clown around with doing that kind of stuff, and it is water cooler talk. It is just kind of straight from my brain. If I think it, I tweet it. That's kind of always been our philosophy, but it's actually turned out to be actually a really interesting debate because there's already been like 45 responses, and there's a good chunk, about 15, 20, that are like, yeah, do it. Remove the emotion. So you get the portion that's hell no.
The people who say no, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
You're a simp.
Yeah. So you
Go punch yourself in the dick.
Yeah, people, that are in agreement. David Hesper gets in. If you remove emotions, that would be a fantastic trade for the Lions. So good, it won't happen. For a Super Bowl this year, you want this trade. And I look at it.
I would trade JMO and a first and next year's second.
Yeah.
Go. Give me max.
You got to give up something. And people think that general managers, clearly I think Brad Holmes would say no. But people act like general managers don't ask for players. Like, you don't think that a general manager would say, hey, I want Jameson, or a quarterback, or somebody, maybe not Hendon Hooker, but they would ask for a good player. Maybe they would even ask for Brian Branch for Max Crosby. Maybe, we are overvaluing Jameson Williams at this point, but he is an explosive threat. If you need a quarterback in the future, I do think potential for talent is not a bad thing, but are you willing to give up 3 first-round picks for Max Crosby? Like, because we hear, I do have people that are close to the situation, and they say that the Raiders are asking for the house. Like, they're asking for a lot. So they may be asking for 2, 3 picks and a player. Like, they're asking for, like, we're going to try to cripple your house type of situation. So Max Crosby wants to be in Detroit. It's no secret. But he's officially kind of said those things to people recently. So it's one of those things where, it would be great, and I think it would give the Lions an opportunity for 2 Super Bowls. But it's crazy because people are still loyal to Jameson Williams, even after the suspension. They're just like, oh well, what did he take, and all that kind of stuff. So to me, I think that Jameson Williams, I think the organization is very fond of him. I don't think it's going to impact him, to the degree other than getting some fan critiques from us and things like that. Dude, when you got that skill, it's one of those things where the skill is going to prevent the Lions from moving on from him. I don't think it's going to impact him too much. I do think that the primary focus is not moving on from JMO. I think it's like one of those, oh, come on, man. You have a stern talk with him, and you say, get back on track, and you keep it moving. But to me, when you saw the game against the Vikings, it's clear they didn't. Aiden Hutchinson can get 15 pressures in a game, and you got just around that for by himself, and you got that for basically the whole game with all your guys. So to me, I think the pass rush without Aiden, you saw what it's like, and it's going to be a challenge. Like, you can't sustain that for a whole season, especially not in the Super Bowl. So I'm curious to see what Isaiah Thomas is going to bring, but the Lions got to go out there and go get somebody. I don't think it's going to be Max Crosby, my heart of hearts. I think the asking price is going to be too hard. And how do you sell that to your fan base unless you get the King's ransom, 3 first-round picks? I don't see it happening. I do think it's going to be Zadarius Smith, and I've tried to talk myself into liking it, but it's just a move that just makes me go, okay, and let's just focus on the rest of the guys. It won't be the splash. It won't be the home run, like, hey, jump out of your chair and do videos type thing. It'll just be, okay, play within the parameters. Please don't get hurt. Don't hurt your hamstring before the playoffs type of move. And I do think it's going to be him. Or it could be Harold Landry if he balls out. It could be somebody that, familiarity with Terrell Williams if he balls out this weekend, because I think the Lions are going to kick the Titans' ass. Are you okay with what you saw with the pass rush because of the big play capability of getting turnovers with Brian Branch and the linebackers? Or are you like more steadfast after seeing that and saying, oh, no, this is desperate. Go get one right now. Why are you waiting? You better push the panic button right now. Go get a pass rusher before this podcast even drops.
Look, I think this game that you've seen against the Vikings kind of tells you everything you need to know. Your secondary did a great job of covering, and those sacks that you were able to get and those quarterback pressures that you were able to get were because of coverage and because you sent crazy blitz packages and you blitzed out of your mind. You do not have the ability or the capability to continue to blitz at that rate and really get minimal return for your investment on that. You have to go get somebody. You have to find somebody. It is amazing how important Aiden Hutchinson was to that defensive line, to that defensive front. There is nobody on this roster that can perform like he performs. There's nobody on this roster that can do what he does. And look, you can praise Brett Holmes as much as you want. You can talk him up as much as you like. Dan Campbell, same thing, right? They've done a great job here. Absolutely fantastic. I think the big fault is believing that Aiden Hutchinson could do it all by himself. And this is something you and I have been pounding the desk for, is you need to go out and you need to get somebody to play opposite of Aiden. I had zero belief that Pascal was going to be able to do that. James Houston is on the side of a milk carton. John Kaminsky's on IR. You don't have anybody. Aleem McNeil is great on the inside. DJ Reader, great on the inside. But you don't have guys who can perform the way Hutchinson has, and you don't have guys who can give you that type of pressure and run with that type of motor. So at some point, you've got to go get somebody. You've got to go figure something out, because the guys that you have, they're just not it. Like, I wish Josh Pascal was everything he was supposed to be. He's not. Trevor Nowitzki is a guy that you kept on your practice squad and you've elevated him up, and he's going to give you something. He's a rotational guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have anybody who's on that edge who can make an impact. So this game, great, you got the win. It's like the best outcome. You got the win, and you got to see what you really have. And what you have is not enough on the outside. So after seeing the game, I firmly planted my flag that, yes, you have to go get something. You're going to have to spend something to go get something. So if that means you got to give up a first-round pick, okay. If that means you got to give up a bonehead like J-Mo, okay. You know, you've got to give to get, and I think you would be doing this team a disservice, because this team has been able to do a whole lot in a very short amount of time, right? It's no small feat to go into Minnesota, where their fan base was absolutely bonkers. This was one of the best teams in the NFL. You went in their house and you punched them in the mouth. You gave them opportunities to take this game away. Dan Campbell going for it in your own zone with a fake punt that got blown up. You misusing timeouts and some bad play calling. David Montgomery fumbling the ball and that turning into a touchdown. You gave this team opportunities to beat you. This team, going into the final 2 minutes of the game, had the lead, and you were able to come back and win. It shows the resolve of this team. That was a monster win. It was a big deal. You now need to help solidify that defensive line. You need to figure out how to make this team better, make it a little bit more impervious to weird things happening, to bad breaks. I'm going to throw a name out there at you, right? And this was a name that I said probably wasn't on the table, and then a whole bunch of stuff happened during the week. So Amari Cooper gets traded from Cleveland, right? So you can tell the Browns are kind of they're setting up their garage sale, basically, right? Deshaun Watson then goes down. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Bravo. All right. Myles Garrett was a guy that we talked about. I didn't think it was going to be possible. I think at this point you can go get Myles Garrett for cheap. And if they were like, hey, give us J-Mo and give us a second, give us a third, whatever it is, I'd do it. Because I think a guy like Myles Garrett, as much as I would love Max Crosby, I think Myles Garrett, when Aiden Hutchinson comes back and he's able to come back at 100%, I think Myles Garrett is the best complement to a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. Because Myles Garrett can control the edge, he can set that side, he can contain, and he can provide pressure to get to the quarterback, while Aiden basically chases the quarterback to him. That would be just a sick dynamic duo, because they are similar in their ability to get to the quarterback, but the way that they play and the way that they provide that pressure is completely different, and I think it helps balance each other out. So if I'm Brad Holmes, I'm on the phone with Cleveland, I'm like, look, what are you guys asking for? Let's start talking.
Yeah.
And nothing is off the table, because you've seen it in this game. You did a good enough job to get the dub, but your guys weren't able to get home. And if they were able to get home, you had a quarterback in Sam Darnold, who, yes, he's having a career renaissance. He had all day in the pocket. There's a reason that these coverage sacks happen in this game, right? Because Sam Darnold's holding on to the ball for 12, 14 seconds. Like you're not supposed to be able to do that. If Aiden Hutchinson was there, he has to get the ball out faster. You're going to need this when you go up against different competition and better competition. Minnesota is doing a fantastic job this season, right? They've got Sam Darnold in there playing fantastic football. They've got a lot of really great pieces. Minnesota is going to be a problem. You got a monster win on the road at their house. Take the dub, keep it moving, right? You're going to have to see them again, and it might not be as easy, and it might not come out in your favor again. So you have to go get somebody. You have to bolster this defensive line.
Yeah, you do. And but because when you look at an offense that's prolific, you've seen teams win Super Bowls with stellar offenses. Do you turn the tide and say, you're hearing whispers that Cooper Kupp might be available? Do you invest on the offense and say, you know what, we don't need a Myles Garrett. Let's just hold on defense and let's just bolster the offense. Let's just get Jarad Goff as many weapons as humanly possible. Maybe an offensive lineman that's on the last year of a deal, and another wide receiver. You say, could you imagine Cooper Kupp, Tim Patrick, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams in a 4 wide receiver set? I mean, you could protect Cooper Kupp towards the end of the year. You realize the Rams could rebuild. Obviously, Brad Holmes might ask the question. I just think that we're definitely focused on the defense, and it needs an upgrade. But that offense is stellar, and I'm always of the opinion you make a strength stronger, and you figure out a way to handle it. I do think they're going to make moves. I do think that they should go all in and just get 3 good players that they can trust that can go out there and guarantee a Super Bowl. Because when you play offense like that, when Jarad Goff's playing at an MVP caliber, where we can sit back and talk about it realistically and not laugh, and not say, you know what, oh no, he's just so far behind Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar is going to end up winning it, but Jarad Goff's right there neck and neck with him. When you have that, give him the best chance. I think that clearly you see when Goff is comfortable, has timing, the offensive line protects him, he can answer the blitz question right now that people have been throwing at him, that, hey, how do you handle pressure? He's been getting the ball out quickly. You got a home run threat in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, perfect complements to each other. You got a nice offensive line that can handle a starter going down, because you could be looking at an offense that's Super Bowl caliber. I say it may not be Cooper Kupp, but maybe another talented, sure-handed receiver that can get yards after the catch. I just think, man, this offense was so impressive, led by Jarad Goff. I might invest on the offensive side of the football. Jarad Goff is playing at an elite level. And look, we're not going to say he's Tom Brady. We're not going to do the hot takes, but we're not going to say he's Joe Montana. But I'll say this. I did not expect to see this version of Jarad Goff in Detroit. I thought that at some point he would plateau, and I'm wrong. He is playing better than he ever has in his career. At 30 years old, reading defense is great, getting the ball out quick, explosive deep throw passer, super poised. Like, he got better. And he took all the teachings working with Ben Johnson, who also deserves credit. He deserves credit for playing like this. We've ragged on quarterbacks who play bad. Goff is playing at a level where you can go, whoa, you can carry an offense. Like, you can score 40 points 2 weeks in a row. Because more touchdown passes than incompletions over 3-4 weeks. This shit is incomprehensible what we're watching. I'm enjoying it, and I'm wrong. Jarad Goff playing like this can probably win a Super Bowl playing like this. So why not give him even more opportunities? What do you make of Jarad Goff? Like, are you just stunned every week going, this is Jarad Goff throwing the football? And actually, really, if you guys forget that, listen to this, he's a former number 1 overall pick, like top dog. And it's taken a while, but at 30 years old, he looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
Yeah, look, he's having a hell of a season. I do want to talk about him in possibly being an MVP, but I disagree with you with adding another weapon to this offense. I really think you need to add to this defense, and you need to add to this defense to help bolster it for not just this year, but next year. I think you have enough mouths already that you have to feed, right? If J-Mo's staying on this roster, you've got him, you've got St. Brown. I think Tim Patrick has been an incredible addition. Khalif Raymond, now obviously those two guys don't need as many touches, but Sam Laporta needs to get touches. You've got Jahmyr Gibbs and you've got David Montgomery as well. Like, that's a ton of guys that you have already at your disposal. I don't see the need to add in a guy like a Cooper Kupp. I don't see the need in adding another wide receiver to this locker room when you already have guys here. Now, Jarad Goff has been playing out of his mind. And like you said, last 4 games, I think it's 18 touchdowns for this offense compared to, 16 incompletions. That's crazy. Like, basically back-to-back weeks, he's had a perfect QB rating. Like, the guy is playing exceptional football right now, making all the right reads, getting guys involved, getting guys the ball. And he is literally taking what the defense is giving him, and he is forcing this team and willing this team to victories. You can go back to last week, the game against Minnesota, and when it came time for crunch time, this guy was calm, cool, collected, and he just sat in the pocket and he delivered the rock where it needed to be and got this team up and down the field and got them in and out and got them a victory. He is playing MVP caliber football right now, and I think he deserves to be in the conversation for MVP. He definitely is one of those top 2 guys. I know Lamar Jackson had a crazy night on Monday Night Football this past week, right? I get it. But Jarad Goff has a playoff history, and the guy comes up big when the team needs him most. I think Lamar tends to come up small when his team needs him the most. Right now, in my house, Jarad Goff is leading Lamar Jackson for MVP.
Yeah, that's awesome. Lamar was great on Monday Night Football. It was crazy, bro. Godwin and Evans. And look, I don't have that power, bro, but I'll say this. I like to think I do. But I've been sitting there mulling over the fact that I have Baker Mayfield on my fantasy bench. And every week I'm like, should I play him? Should I play him? And I always break my own rule. My rule is play the home quarterback. But I love Baltimore so much. I love their defense. I thought that they were going to show out and show up. And they did at first. They got the interception. But it's to the point now where I was like, prior to Godwin and Evans getting hurt, I'm like, fuck, I'm making a mistake here. I could probably win this league with Baker Mayfield as my quarterback, but I really love Stroud. I lost the fantasy game simply being stupid. Like just simple dumbassness where you just play Mayfield and see what happens. So I think about it, and then the like 2 minutes later, I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. It was literally 2 minutes before Evans hurt his hamstring. I'm like, I think it's time I play. I said it in my head. I said, I think it's time I play Mayfield. I have a chance to win this league. And boom, Evans goes down. Later in the game, near the end, Godwin goes down. Bro, what the hell is going on here in a situation in which Baker Mayfield's having a stellar season, loses his top 2 receivers in the same game? Oh my God. So we'll see now how this plays out, because look, I'm kind of fortunate. The schedule in fantasy kind of shakes out pretty well for me moving forward. So we'll see how it plays out. But my goodness, what a gross situation for the Tampa Bay offense. It was rolling, and look, man, that Sean McVay tree can produce some really strong offensive coaches, and wow, you resurrected Baker Mayfield's career. It's the talk of the NFL. You know who's not the talk of the NFL? The Tennessee Titans. Do you see any capacity, because where this game is a trap game, I just think it's going to be an ass kicking, like a celebration, stat padding, dancing, like over with it at 125 kind of situation. It's going to be 21-0 before the Titans blink. I think the Lions have more talent, better quarterback, better defense. I just think that the Lions set up perfectly to debut Isaiah Thomas against the Titans. I do not see a scenario in which the Lions look ahead to the Packers. I just see easy halftime stories done, 2-3 touchdown domination of the Titans this week. Am I wrong? Any concern at all with the Lions facing the Titans, this team, a weak team?
Well, I hope you're right, but I do see this as a bit of a look-ahead game, a gotcha game. Look, it's the NFL. There are other professionals on the other side. Now, is Tennessee a little bit in disarray? Yes. Do they not have a quarterback? Yes. Are things kind of a fluid mess over there? Absolutely. But I think if you don't come in and you don't take this team serious, I think this could be a real problem. If Detroit comes in and they've got their head screwed on straight, I could see you putting your starters on the bench after the first drive of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
You can get out to a big enough lead, and you could really embarrass this team if you really wanted to. I think Dan Campbell will do his best to get in and out of this game so his guys can get some rest, because you have a monster game on the horizon against Green Bay. Green Bay, has been able to weather the Jordan Love injury. They are right there in the mix. This is another team that's 5-1. There's a reason why the NFC North is a gauntlet, and it is a death match just about every single week. It is the best division in football right now. So I think you go in on Sunday, take care of business. You hang some crooked numbers early, get your guys out, make sure everybody is safe, make sure everybody is healthy, and we move on to Green Bay. I think Detroit wins this game, but I think they definitely have to take this serious. I do not think you can mess around. Tennessee has some guys that can play football, and Tennessee is looking to spoil your day. But I think Detroit wins this game 35-14.
Yeah, get out there and dominate. That's what it's all about. Stat padding time, baby. Brian Branch, DPOY candidate, interceptions galore. You realize, man, this Lions defense is young, only going to get better. The window's open maybe for a couple years. So that's why I think everybody loves the Crosby opportunities. Hey, if we can dream about one, why not two? Hutch, maybe you win one this year, maybe you win one next year with Hutchinson returning. So let's see. Luckily, Aiden posted a update. Everybody saw that he's okay, that he's now on the mend, and he's on the road to recovery. We'll see how the recovery looks as the playoffs approach and as the talk and chatter continues. We'll see how the Detroit Lions progress. They're sitting at 5-1 in a great spot. To see the Lions being talked about by Sports Illustrated, The Athletic, and other major publications as being the best team right now in football, it's a great sight to see. And we'll see how this football team gets constructed and upgraded at the deadline. We'll see who the name that Brad Holmes finds. They're going to work together in lockstep. And remember, guys, as much as we try to tag Max Crosby, keep doing it, but it's going to take a lot. So the Lions have their standards. It's got to be the right contract, the right culture fit, the right player, the right scheme fit. So it's going to take a lot for Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes to agree on somebody together. So we'll see who that person ends up being, and we'll follow along as the Detroit Lions continue their push to the NFC North Division title and hopefully another long playoff push. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSJROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Thank you guys for supporting us and engaging in conversation. Less and less silly tweets, more and more actual debate, which we love. We love it. Message us at Detroit Podcast if you like the questions. If you don't, like I said, our philosophy is simple. Try not to be too much. It's sports. I don't think too much. I just go, hey, I'm talking to my cuz. Oh, Jameson. Oh, yeah, Jameson for Max. Let's throw it out there. Let's see what people think. And luckily, you guys had an actual debate. Many of you are thinking that the Lions would have to throw in even more besides Jameson. So that's a fair point to make. But I got a lot more people willing to think about that than that are calling me stupid. So that's always a good sign, and I really appreciate that. It's a valuable topic. And look, that's what we're here to do. That's what I would do, is I would just shoot Adam a text and say, hey, would you trade J-Mo? And this is what we would do. We'd have a conversation, and we'd go back and forth, and we get the privilege of doing it on the air as well. Thanks, everybody, for your support. Subscribe anywhere you listen to your favorite audio content. Type in Detroit Sports Podcast, and our content will find you. Thanks for subscribing. I can't wait, cuz, to break down the Packers game next week with you on the latest edition of Doc and Jock.
You fucking podcasters. I said don't let them in here.